the tent city in Oakland, California, because we had the leadership on this whole question that they now characterize as homelessness and stuff like that. We led around that question. And when we did Tent City in Oakland, California, and in this park, they call it Lafayette Park, and we named it Uhuru Park. And Africans were living there in very bestial ways, homelessness, living in the bushes and things like that, chased by the police on a regular basis. And we went in there and we organized the people, and people fixed up the park. We organized feeding the people there on a regular basis. And then what we were saying, because this place was right in right in downtown Oakland. And we said, we're going to set up a tent city here. And we organized to have materials, lumber, and what have you brought in. And the police came on every possible mode of transportation. They came on horses, motorcycles, cars, and helicopters to bust it up. And Comrade Ruby, you know, you see the picture with her arm twisted behind her back in agony by the cops, but there's another picture with her down on the ground, belly down, with her on the back, on her hands, you know, with shoulder, arm being twisted, you know, with a cop on her back. And Comrade Sandy, you know, who still hasn't gotten me my article yet, and she thinks I have Ronald Reagan syndrome, because every time I see her, she changes the subject, thinking that I don't know what has just transpired, but she owes me an article. But Comrade Sandy, who was working for a liberal radio station at the time, and the party had seized this house, abandoned house, in the face of all this homelessness. We were showing the way to deal with the homeless question. There were 10,000 homeless people in the city, and Oakland owned itself. The city owned all these abandoned houses nobody lived in. We had a slogan that homeless people and empty buildings go together. And we seized this house owned by the city of Oakland. And we called on people to come and help us repair and renovate this house so that we can put a mother and her children, a homeless mother and her children in the house. And it was extraordinary because people came from all over the Bay Area, all kinds of people. And I think in something like a week, the house was good enough for us to put somebody in it. And Sandy came out with a little microphone to cover the story for KPFA, right? And she stayed there overnight. And, of course, early in the morning, because this is how they come, just like they came for Jesus and Fred Hampton, right? The police raided the place and grabbed the sister who we were putting in the house and threw her in an emergency vehicle and rushed her to the hospital, to the psych ward, to the hospital. And they put Sandy in jail. So Sandy had just started coming around and said, well, that's the last we'll see of her. But that's the metal. That's the part of the forging process of APSC, to say who we are. Because Sandy said that was the thing that won her to the movement, right? To have an opportunity to engage them, to engage the imperialists, to fight them, and then to be recognized by the imperialists as the problem that they have to solve. That's something else. No longer this insignificant entity that's out there, right? Responding haphazardly or individually to events. But imperialism has to recognize us as the problem they have to solve. Poor Susan Worth, who was kidnapped. Her mother had her kidnapped by thugs who, a Negro headed up this ring, who were engaged in what they call deprogramming. Her mother had her kidnapped and took her, and she was taken someplace where she was tortured, right? To end her brainwashing, being in this movement. Susan, poor Susan Worth. And She never recovered from that. She never recovered from that, what they did to her. Susan, I think, she speaks 5 languages or something like that, was, really incredible woman. And she finally committed suicide by stepping in front of a train. But these are our forces. These are our people. And people who had the ability to stand up. And I'm saying that it is part of the forging process. It isn't something that happened to Susan. It's something that happened to APSC. It's something that happened to the Uhuru movement. These are the kinds of things that shape us and say who we are. We've got people who work for damn near nothing for years. Joel and other people in these furniture stores and what have you, doing the damn work. Because they're not working for now. Because they have had the ability to see the future, the vision that we are fighting for. This is the transformation that we are talking about, and this is the organization that's holding this conference on today that we have now come to participate with and sum up where it is that we've come from and what it is that we have to do. And I have tremendous appreciation for that. And this is a new era of struggle. And the party is now in a process, a state of transformation that is reflected in what you're doing here, the changes that we're talking about now, constitutional changes and things like that, the character of this conference that we're having now. All of this reflect the changes that's happening in the African People's Socialist Party that also respond to changes in the world. And our opportunity now, because we are no longer the oddballs. We are no longer the oddballs. In fact, you get the best answers to the questions that's been plaguing people in this country now for centuries from this movement. We are, in fact, that acorn that is now sprouting in a real serious way. People see the acorn as just a thing that they are, and they can't see the future because it can become the oak that we have to ultimately become. That's what this process is about. So it's a great, glorious thing that's happening now. Tremendous contradictions in the world. Tremendous transformation in the world. The things that we see, Korea, what's happening with Korea? Nothing's happening with Korea. What's happening is China is now challenging U.S. imperialism in a way that it hasn't been challenged before. And in that whole area of Asia, what's happening now is the need to find any excuse to put any kind of military equipment that they can in that area to say to China, this is who we are. But even as they do this, China allows to leak the stealth bomber that China has to say that we can play this game too. I mean, there's all kinds of things happening out in the world today, and we have to see that there's a tremendous transformation. And the bourgeoisie, the ruling class, recognizes that profound change has occurred. And now we have to take responsibility to leading right now during this time. And that's the struggle that we're involved in now. A lot of changes have to be made, but the changes are made on the foundations that's been created over a period of time. And so I salute you for this International Plenary Conference. And I congratulate you for that, and I express my deepest appreciation for your being here and being part of this movement, because this is the future. And